Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो गोपेश गोपीकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। बोलो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की जय। बोलो श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। हरे कृष्णा जय।
हरे कृष्णा गजेंद्र, हरे कृष्णा आत्मेश,
हरे कृष्णा।
सो कल हम लोग श्लोक 19 पढ़ रहे थे, अध्याय 8 कैंटो 5th, and this is about Bharat Maharaj. Yeah. So how we have been reading, Bharat Maharaj is son of Lord Rishabdev himself, right? Lord Rishabdev is manifestation of Lord Vishnu. Yeah. And Bharat Maharaj is the eldest son of Rishabdev ji. And then we saw how Bharat Maharaj ruled this whole Bharatvarsh for thousands of years. And then he went to do tapasya in Pula ashram, Rishi Pula's ashram. And there, while doing the meditation and the devotional service, somehow, as we saw, he got attached to a deer. Yeah. So Bharat Maharaj got attached to a deer. Then at the end, Bharat Maharaj, while giving his body, he was remembering the deer, and he got so much, fell in love with deer so much that in the next birth, he got the body of deer. Yeah. And that's what we were reading before. Like he got the body of a deer, and then he remembered the previous life because of his devotional service. So then he came to the Pula ashram again, and there he did devotional service in the form of a deer. And then he again gave up his body, and then he took a birth in the family of a Brahman. Yeah. And that's what we are reading right now. So once he took a birth in the family of Brahman, what's going on is what we are reading, right? So let's read with Shlok 19. Nisha.
निम्लोचति भगवान सकल जगत क्षेमोदय स्त्रयात्माध्यापि ममन मृगवधून्यास आगच्छति. Alas, when the sun rises, all auspicious things begin. Unfortunately, they have not begun for me. The sun god is the Vedas personified, but I am bereft of all Vedic principles. That sun god is now setting, yet the poor animal who trusted in me since its mother died has not returned. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so actually we completed this earlier, right? Like about the deer, and then he took birth as a Brahman. So we actually completed chapter 8 yesterday. Yeah. And today we are starting chapter 9. Yeah. So Shlok 4 of chapter 9. So Nisha, once again, you can just.
Tasyapihava atmajasya vipraha putra स्नेहानुबद्धमना आसमावर्तनात् संस्कारान् यथोपदेशं विदधान् उपनीतस्य च पुनः शौचाचमनादीन् कर्मनियमाननभिः प्रेतानपि समशिक्षयदनुशिष्टेन हि भाव्यं पितुः पुत्रेणेति. The Brahman father's mind was always filled with affection for his son. Jaḍa Bharat Maharaj, therefore he was always attached to the Jaḍa Bharat, because Jaḍa Bharat was unfit to enter the Grihastha ashram. He simply executed the purificatory process up to the end of the Brahmacharya ashram. Although Jaḍa Bharat was unwilling to accept his father's instructions, the Brahman nonetheless instructed him in how to keep clean and how to wash, thinking that the son should be taught by the father. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा। या तो हम लोग जड़ भरत के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं। सो जड़ भरत ब्राह्मण फैमिली में जन्म लेते हैं, एंड द फादर इज वेरी अटैच्ड टू जड़ भरत, एंड ही वांट्स टू teach him a lot of Vedic paddhatis and all that. But Bharat Maharaj, he remembers his previous births, right, and the whole devotional service. So, so he is simply in the purificatory process up to the Brahmacharya ashram. Like as we mentioned in the Varnashram Dharma, first 25 years is like Brahmacharya ashram, right? And then the Grihastha ashram. But Bharat Maharaj is not going to enter the Grihastha ashram. But the father wants to keep teaching him. So that's what we are reading. Yeah, that's a nice purport. So let's read this, Ajay.
Sure. Jaḍa Bharat was Bharat Maharaj in the body of Brahmana, and he outwardly conducted himself as if he were dull, deaf, dumb, and blind. Actually, he was quite alert within. He knew perfectly well of the results of fruitive activities and the results of devotional service. In the body of Brahmana, Mahārāja Bharat was completely absorbed in devotional service within. Therefore, it was not at all necessary for him to execute the regulative principles of fruitive activity. As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Swanusthaya dharmasya samisidhar haritosanam. Bhagavat 1.2.13. One has to satisfy Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the perfection of the regulative principles of fruitive activity. Besides that, it is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma Swanasthya Puram Purnasam Visvaksena Kathasuya no Padaid Yadi Ratin Srama Iva Hi Kevalam. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Shinu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Uncle. Good to see everyone.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Duties, dharma, executed by men, regardless of occupation, are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the Supreme Lord. These karmakand activities are required as long as one has not developed Krishna consciousness. If one has developed in Krishna consciousness, there is no need to execute the prior regulative principles of karmakand. Srila Madhavendra Puri said, "O regulative principles of karmakand, please excuse me. I cannot follow all these regulative principles, for I am fully engaged in devotional service." He expressed the desire to sit somewhere beneath the tree and continued chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Consequently, he did not execute all the regulative principles. Similarly, Haridas Thakur was born in a Mohammedan family. From the very beginning of his life, he was never trained in the Karmakand system, but because he was always chanting the holy name of the Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as a Namacharya, the authority in chanting the holy name. As Jaḍa Bharat, Bharat Maharaj was always engaged in devotional service within his mind. Since he had executed the regulative principles continuously for 3 lives, he was not interested in continuing to execute them, although his Brahmana father wanted to do so. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so what is mentioned is Bharat Maharaj, who is now Jad Bharat in this birth, is totally engaged in the devotional service. Yeah? Se chapi taduha pitra sanidha eva sadrichinameva shmakaroti shandashadhyaya pashinah pashinah sah vyahariti viha sapranava stripadim savitrim greshavasanti kanaman sanadhyana mayasam veta rupam grahayamasa. Jad Bharat behaved before his father like a fool, despite his father's adequately instructing him in Vedic knowledge. He behaved in that way so that his father would know that he was unfit for instruction and would abandon the attempt to instruct him further. He would behave in a completely opposite way. Although instructed to wash his hands after evacuating, he would wash them before. Nonetheless, his father wanted to give him Vedic instructions during the spring and summer. He tried to teach him the Gayatri mantra along with Omkara and Yahatri, but after 4 months, his father still was not successful in instructing him. Yeah? Ajay?
Sure. Evam swatnuj atmanurag veshit chitta shauchadhyayan vrat magur varnar shushuna dyop kurnak karmanya bhyuktan tapi samunishtet bhavya mits sadagraha putra manushas swayam tavad anadhi gatam northa kale na pramaten swayam grih eva pramat upsanhita. The Brahman father of Jaḍa Bharat considered his son his heart and soul, and therefore he was very much attached to him. He thought it wise to educate his son properly, and being absorbed in the unsuccessful endeavor, he tried to teach his son the rules and regulation of brahmacharya, including the execution of the Vedic vows, cleanliness, study of Vedas, the regulative method, service to the spiritual master, and the method of offering a fire sacrifice. He tried his best to teach his son in this way, but all his endeavors failed. In his heart, he hoped that his son would be a learned scholar, but all his attempts were unsuccessful. Like everyone, this Brahman was attached to his home, and he had forgotten that someday he would die. Death, however, was not forgetful. At the proper time, death appeared and took him away. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So what is being mentioned is the Brahman's family where Jad Bharat is born. Right? The father is very attached to him and he wants to teach him the Vedas and the fire sacrifice, Havan, and all the principles from Vedas. But Jad Bharat is not a Jad Bharat because he doesn't want to do anything, right? But he remembers all his previous lives and he's fully engaged in devotional service, right? Chanting. And so he doesn't want to learn all that. And then what? And one day the Brahman, of course, leaves his body. Is what is being mentioned in this. Again, a very nice purpose. So let's read this. Tarun, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Those who attach to family life, who forget that death comes in the future to take them away, become attached and unable to finish their duty as human beings. The duty of human life is to solve all the problems of life, but instead people remain attached to family affairs and duties. Although they forget death, death will not forget them. Suddenly they will be kicked off the platform of a peaceful family life. One may forget that he has to die, but death never forgets. Death comes always at the right time. The Brahmana father of Jaḍa Bharata wanted to teach his son the process of brahmacharya, but he was unsuccessful due to his son's unwillingness to undergo the process of Vedic advancement. Jaḍa Bharata was simply concerned with returning home back to Godhead by executing devotional service through Swaranam Kirtanam Vishnu. He did not care for the Vedic instructions of his father. When one is fully interested in the service of the Lord, he does not need to follow all the regulative principles enunciated in the Vedas. Of course, for an ordinary man, the Vedic principles are imperative. No one can avoid them. But when one has to attain the perfection of devotional service, it is not very important to follow the Vedic principles. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? Chino?
Lord Krishna advised Arjuna to ascend to the platform of Nitragunya, the transcendental position above the Vedic principles. Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistragunyo Bhavarjuna, Nirdvanvo Nitya Sattvasto, Niryog Kshema Atmavan. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in self. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, as we know, as soon as the conditioned soul comes in this material nature, yeah, we are subjected to those three modes, right? Either Satogun, Rajogun, or Tamogun. And even if it's Satogun, we are still attached to the material world, right? So what Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna in this particular shlok is rise above these modes, like rise above even Satogun, yeah, and be situated in devotional service, which is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Yeah. Ajay?
Sure. अथ यवीयसी द्विज सती स्वगर्भ जातम मिथुनम सपन्या उपनयस्य स्वयं मनु संसता patiloक magat. Therefore, the Brahmana's younger wife, after entrusting her twin children, the boy and the girl, to the elder wife, departed for Patilok, voluntarily dying with her husband. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nisha?
पीतर्युपरते भ्रातर एन मत्प्रभाव विदस्त्रयां विद्यायामेव पर्यवसितमतयो न परविद्यायां जडमतिरिति भ्रातुर्नुशासन निर्बन्धान्य वृत्सन्त. After the father died, the 9 stepbrothers of Jaḍa Bharat, who considered Jaḍa Bharat dull and brainless, abandoned the father's attempt to give Jaḍa Bharat a complete education. The stepbrothers of Jaḍa Bharat were learned in the 3 Vedas, the Rig Veda, Samveda, and Yajurveda, which very much encourage fruitive activities. The 9 brothers were not at all spiritually enlightened in a devotional service to the Lord. Consequently, they could not understand the highly exalted position of the Jaḍa Bharat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Jaḍa Bharat, yeah, Bharat Maharaj, none other than the Bharat Maharaj, yeah, the brothers could not understand his highly exalted position of devotional service. Yeah. Chino?
This might take a little bit of time. Sacha prakritir dvipada pashubir unmata jada bhadira mukte abhibhasyamano yada tat anurupani prabhashate karmani cha karyamana parichaya karoti vishtito vitanato va yagyarya yadrichaya Vupasaditam alpam bahu mritsam kadanam. Vabhya vaharti param nedrya priti nimitam. Nitya nivrita nimita svasiddha vishuddhanubhavananda svatma labhadigama sukha dukhayor dvandva nimittayor asambhavita tehabhimana shitoshna vata varsheshu vrisha ivana vritanga pina samhananga handila vishan numardana majna rajasa mahamanir ivana bhivyakta brahma varchasa kupatavrita katir upavitenuru mashina Dvijatir ite Brahma Bandhur ite samgyayata jnana vamato vichara. Hare Krishna. Do you want me to read the translation as well, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Degraded men are actually no better than animals. The only difference is that animals have 4 legs and such men only have 2. These 2-legged animalistic men used to call Bharata mad, dull, deaf, and dumb. They mistreated him, and Bharata behaved for them like a madman who is deaf, blind, or dull. He did not protest or try to convince them that he was not so. If others wanted him to do something, he acted according to their desires. Whatever food he could acquire by begging or by wages, and whatever came of its own accord, be it a small quantity, palatable, stale, or tasteless, he would accept. He never ate anything for sense gratification because he was already liberated from the bodily conception, which induces one to accept palatable or unpalatable food. He was fully in the transcendental consciousness of devotional service, and therefore he was unaffected by the dualities arising from the bodily conception. Actually, his body was as strong as a bull's, and his limbs are very muscular. He didn't care for winter or summer, wind or rain, and he never covered his body at any time. He lay on the ground and never smeared oil on his body or took a bath. Because his body was dirty, his spiritual effulgence and knowledge were covered, just as the splendor of a valuable gem is covered by dirt. He only wore a dirty loincloth and a sacred thread, which was blackish. Understanding that he was born in a Brahmana family, people would call him a Brahma Bandhu and other names. Being thus insulted and neglected by materialistic people, he wandered here and there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Sukdev Goswami Ji Maharaj, yeah, Parikshit Maharaj को जड़ भरत के बारे में बता रहा है. So Jaḍa Bharat, as we can see, he was full in transcendental consciousness of devotional service. Yeah, remembering from his previous births. and so he was unaffected by the duality ready from the bodily conception. Yeah, it says here, Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Deha Smriti Nahi Yara, Samsara Bandhan Kahana Tare. One who has no desire to maintain the body or who is not anxious to keep the body in order and who is satisfied in any condition must be either mad or liberated. Yeah, he has to be one of those two. Either he's mad or he's liberated. And actually, Bharat Maharaj, in his birth as Jaḍa Bharat, was completely liberated from material dualities. He was a Paramhans and therefore did not care for the bodily comfort.
I have a quick question on that, Uncle.
Yeah.
So I know he is, he has the, 3 past lives kind of carrying his, and he has that memory of that. So he doesn't really need to kind of live a clean life or anything like that because he's kind of detached from all that. But what about like people in India, for example, who different Babas, they renounce everything, they kind of renounce the comforts, but I guess they're not necessarily the same as him. So I guess where did they fall on this, spectrum?
So the most important part is how much everyone is engaged in devotional service. Yeah. So as long as they are totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then the point is it doesn't matter whether you are looking like a Baba or you are not looking like a Baba. Or even for Jaḍa Bharat, it's being mentioned that he didn't even have to worry about Vedic rituals, right? Like, so even doing the Vedic rituals and Havans, which Brahmins will do, right, in the Brahmin families, he didn't have to do all that. What he was doing is, because he understood what had gone wrong, right? How he fell down from the spiritual condition and got attached to a deer. So he had to, based on the karmas, he had to pass through those materialistic life, right? But he had him completely situated and fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, right? So that is what is being mentioned. So when you talk about Indias and the Babas, it depends on what are they trying to do. Some Babas are really good, right? Some Babas are trying to be there. Some Babas will follow, like being Lord Shiva's devotee, they try to mimic and follow the similar behavior, and then meditate on Lord Shiva, which is also okay. The point is, at the end of the day, after all that, what we have been reading so far is, even if you are liberated, right? Even if you are self-realized, even if you get to like a higher level, higher Brahma level, the end of the day, you need to be in the devotional service. And that's where you need to be situated in. And that's very difficult to achieve. Even though it sounds very simplistic, if you can get to where Lord Krishna's attachment, then that's the perfection of life. Right? And that's where Bharat Maharaj was. But then he was even further situated in the consciousness so that he didn't even care about the body. He knew the body is so different than soul. So we understand this too, but for us, it's not very easy to differentiate and distinguish, right? Because if you have a pain, we'll feel that. Like you're going to be a neurosurgeon, you're going to treat that, right? But if you can distinguish from that, right, and be situated in yourself, then you won't care about the body, is what is being mentioned here. That Bharat Maharaj was totally in Krishna consciousness, and he didn't have to worry about the bodily conception.
I see. Thanks, Uncle.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Sachin.
Hare Krishna. Yada tu parat aharam karma vetanat ihamana swabhratru bhirapi kedara karmani nirupitastadapi karoti kintu na mamam samam vishamam nyunamadhika miti veda kadapinya kafalikara kulmasha sthali पुरीशा दिना आपन्यु अमृत वद व्यवहरित. Jad Bharat used to work only for food. His stepbrothers took advantage of this and engaged him in agricultural field work in exchange for some food. But actually, he did not know how to work very well in the field. He did not know where to spread dirt or where to make the ground level or uneven. His brothers used to give him broken rice, oil cakes, and chaff of rice, worm-eaten grains, and burnt grains that had stuck to the pot. But he gladly accepted all this as if it were nectar. He did not hold any grudges and ate all this very gladly. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So even though they behaved like that, they gave him whatever, it didn't really matter to him, right? He took everything as a nectar and he didn't hold any grudges against anyone. Mataru?
अथ कदाचित् वृषाला पथिर भद्रकाल्ये पुरुषा पशुम् अलभत्पत्य कामः. At this time, being desirous of obtaining a son, the leader of dacoits who came from a Shudra family wanted to worship the goddess Bhadrakali by offering her in sacrifice a dull man, who is considered no better than an animal. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nisha?
तस्यः देवमुक्तस्य पशोः पदवीं तदनुचराः परिधावन्तो निशीथसमये तमसावृत्ताया मनधिगत पशम् आकस्मिकेन विधिना केदारं विरासनेन मृगवराहादिभ्यः संरक्षणामाणमन्दिरः प्रवरसुतं पश्यन्. The leader of the dacoits captured a man-animal for sacrifice, but he escaped, and the leader ordered his followers to find him. They ran in different directions but could not find him. Wandering here and there in the middle of the night, covered by dense darkness, they came to a paddy field where they saw an exalted son of the Angira family, Jaḍa, who was sitting in an elevated place guarding the field against the attacks of deer and wild pigs. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the leader of the dacoit wanted to sacrifice someone in front of the Bhadrakali, and so then they come to Jaḍa, yeah, who is sitting in the field. So, Ajay?
Sure. अथ त एनमन वदे लक्षणम वमिश्र भ्रति कमर्निष्पन्ति मन्यमाना बदध्वा रशनया चंडिका गृहमुप निन्युमूर्धा विकसित वदना. The followers and the servants of the dacoit chief considered Jaḍa to possess qualities quite suitable for a man-animal, and they decided that he was a perfect choice for sacrifice. Their faces bright with happiness, they bound him with ropes and brought him to the temple of goddess Kali. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Actually, it's mentioned that, as we have learned from the previous verses, Bharat Maharaj was very strong and could have very easily avoided being bound with ropes. But he did not do anything. He simply depended on the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his protection. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur describes surrender unto the Supreme Lord in this way. Marabhi Rakhabhi Yo Ichha Tohar Nitya Das Prati Tuya Adhikar. Like, my Lord, I am now surrendered unto you. I am your eternal servant. And if you like, you can kill me, or if you like, you can protect me. In any case, I am fully surrendered unto you. Yeah. So that's the level where Bharat Maharaj was. Yeah. Sachin?
प्रणयस्तं स्वविधिना निश्चिच्चाहतेन वाससा छाद्य भूषणाले वस्त्र तिलकादिभिरूप स्कृतं भुक्तवन्तं धूपदी पमाल्यला जकी सलया अंकुर फलोपहारोपेतया वैशस संथ या महता गीतस्तुति मृदुंग पणव घोषेण च पुरुष पशुं भद्रकाल्याः पुरत उपवेशया मासुः. After this, all the thieves, according to their imaginative ritual for killing animalistic men, bathed Jaḍa, dressed him in new clothes, decorated him with ornaments befitting an animal, smeared his body with scented oils, and decorated him with tilaka, sandalwood pulp, and garlands. They fed him sumptuously, and then brought him before the goddess Kali, offering her incense, lamps, garlands, parched grain, newly grown twigs, sprouts, fruits, and flowers. In this way, they worshipped the deity before killing the man-animal, and they vibrated songs and prayers and played drums and bagels. Jaḍa was then made to sit down before the deity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Tarun?
अथ व्रतशाला राजपनी पुरुष पशो सेवन देवीं भद्रकालीं यक्ष्य तद्भि अभिमन्त्रितम् असीम अतिकरल निशितम् upadade. At this time, one of the thieves, acting as the chief priest, was ready to offer the blood of Jaḍa, whom they imagined to be an animal man, to the goddess Kali to drink as a liquor. He therefore took up a very fearsome sword, which was very sharp, and consecrating it with mantra of Bhadrakali, raised it to kill Jaḍa. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You know?
Iti tesham vishalanam rajastama prakritanam dhana mada raja utsikta manasam bhagavat kala veera kulam kadarthi krityopatena sveram vibharatam himsa viharanam karmate darunam yad brahma bhutasya sakshat brahmarshi sutasya nirvairasya sarvabhuta surida sunayam api ananumatam alambhanam tad upalabhya brahma tejasati durvishahena dandahya manena vapusha saha so chakat Deva Devi Bhadrakali. All the rogues and thieves who had made arrangements for the worship of goddess Kali were low-minded and bound to the modes of passion and ignorance. They were overpowered by the desire to become very rich. Therefore, they had the audacity to disobey the injunctions of the Vedas, so much so that they were prepared to kill Jaḍa, a self-realized soul born in a Brahmin family. Due to their envy, these dacoits brought him before the goddess Kali for sacrifice. Such people are always addicted to envious activities, and therefore they dared try to kill Jaḍa. Jaḍa was the best friend of all living entities. He was no one's enemy, and he was always absorbed in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was born of a good Brahmin father, and killing him was forbidden, even though he might have been an enemy or aggressive person. In any case, there is no reason to kill Jaḍa, and the goddess Kali could not bear this. She could immediately understand that these sinful dacoits were about to kill a great devotee of the Lord. Suddenly, the deity's body burst asunder, and the goddess Kali personally emerged from it in a body burning with an intense and intolerable effulgence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So what we are reading is, though the Jaḍa did not oppose anything, but then goddess Kali appeared, yeah, and to protect Bharat Maharaj. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Shiksha Babuji.
हाँ हरे कृष्ण जी। थोड़ा थोड़ा उसको नीचे ले, थोड़ा नीचे नीचे नीचे, ऊपर गया तो मैं पढ़ नहीं। हाँ हाँ बस 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 बस। भीष्मर्ष रोषा वेश भस विलासित भ्रिकुटी विट कटु कुटिल द्रंष्ट रूढ़ेन छड़ा टोप भीत भयानक वदना हंतु काम वेदम महाठासमति संभरेण विमुंचन्ति तथा उपत्य पापी यसाम दुष्टानां तनेवासिनां विकवर्णीशीर्णां गलात्सवास दंसवंत श्रीगावसवनुषणं सह गणेन निपीतयाति पादं विह्वल्योच्च स्तरां स्वपार्षदैः सह जगौ नंतर च विजहार च शिरः कंदुकलीलया
intolerant of the offense committed, the infuriated goddess Kali flashed her eyes and displayed her fires. Curved teeth, her reddish eye glowed, and she displayed her fearsome features. She assumed tightening body as if she were prepared to destroy the entire creation. Leaping violently from the altar, she immediately dissipated all the wrong and thieves with the very sword with which they had intended to kill Jaḍa. She then began to drink the hot blood the flowed from the neck of the beheaded rogue and thieves. As if this blood were liquor, indeed, she drank this intoxicant with her associates, who were witches and female demons. Becoming intoxicated with this blood, they all began to sing very loudly and dance as though prepared to annihilate the entire universe. At the same time, they began to play with the heads of the rogue and thieves, tossing them about as if they were balls. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ajay?
एवमेव खलु महद् भिचारातिक्रमः कात्यस्नेयरचनात्मने फलति. When an envious person commits an offense before a great personality, he is always punished in the way mentioned above. Hare Krishna.
Nisha?
नवा एतद् विष्णुदत्त महदद्भुतं यत् सम्भ्रमः स्वचिरच्छेदन आपतिते अपि विमुक्तदेहाध्यात्मभाव सुदृढ हृदयग्रन्थीनां सर्वसत्त्वसुहृदात्मनां निर्वैराणां साक्षात् भगवता निमिषारिवरायुधेन प्रमत्तेन तैस्तैर्भावैः परिरक्ष्यमाणां तत्पादमूलमकुच्छिद्यमुप्रसूतानां भागवतपरमहंसानाम्. Sukadeva Goswami then said to Maharaj Parikshit, O Vishnudat, those who already know that the soul is separate from the body, who are liberated from the invincible knot in the heart, who are always engaged in welfare activities for all living entities, and who never contemplate harming anyone, are always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who carries his disc, the Sudarshan Chakra, and acts as supreme time to kill the demons and protect his devotees. The devotees always take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. Therefore, at all times, even if threatened by decapitation, they remain unagitated. For them, this is not all wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Is this Sachin?
These are some of the great qualities of a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. First, a devotee is firmly convinced of his spiritual identity. He never identifies with the body. He is firmly convinced that the spirit soul is different from the body. Consequently, he fears nothing. Even though his life may be threatened, he is not at all afraid. He does not even treat an enemy like an enemy. Such are the qualifications of devotees. Devotees are always fully dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Lord is always eager to give them all protection in all circumstances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So for a devotee, yeah, who is totally with the spiritual identity, Lord is always eager to give them all the protection in all the circumstances. Is what we learn from Jaḍa Bharat Maharaj episode. And I think so thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purpose of the 5th canto, 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Supreme Character of Jaḍa Bharat. Bolo Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Yeah.
Jai.
So I think we'll continue reading this about Jaḍa Bharat. What happens next? Very blissful description of between Jaḍa Bharat and Mahārāja Rahūgaṇa. So we'll pause here. And then Wednesday, so we'll again restart on Monday. Since I'm very happy Ekadashi, blissful Ekadashi to everyone. And since it's Ekadashi, we are going to see a very good 5-minute clip of Tirupati Balaji. Yeah. So we'll see some Abhishek of Tirupati Balaji and all that for 5 minutes. So.
Hare श्रीरङ्गा श्री वैष्णव द्रविड वेद नीराट्ट पाशुरमुदिता भुवन मोहन सालग्राम विग्रह लसिता रोतवस्त्र समलङ्कृता महानन्द कर्पूर मङ्गल महाज्योति नीराजिता महाज्योति नीराजिता जय 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 हे सप्तगिरि सार्वभौमा जय 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 हे अभिषेक प्रिया किल सुख शांति निलया जय 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 कलियुग वैकुंठ परमात्मा जय 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 श्री वेंकटेश गोविंद परंधामा गोविंद परंधामा गोविंद परंधामा गोविंद परंधामा गोविंद परंधामा
So beautiful darshan of Sri Venkateshwar, yeah, Sri Venkateshwar Tirupati Balaji. A nice Abhishek. So live from the temple.
Very nice.
Everyone enjoy the long weekend now. We'll see you back on Monday.
You
We'll continue reading about Jaḍa Mahārāja. Yeah. Hare Krishna. See you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.